of knowledge out there. And so some of you might just be starting on this journey. Other of you may have tested and tried things. So I am going to kind of try to address all the groups, the early adopters, and then maybe the ones that are a little hesitant to dive in. But my goal is to just give you one piece of information that you might be able to take and start utilizing in your everyday communication efforts. I'll introduce myself quickly. I'm Reba Thompson. I am the Vice President of Client Partnerships at WriterGirl and Associates. We are a content agency. We traditionally specialize in healthcare content, but we also work across other industries as well. Some hospitality, some higher education, some finance. So we kind of dabble in a little bit across a few industries, but most of what we do is in healthcare, and we are a writing company. So the rise of AI has really alerted us to what does this mean for communicators, and how do we take these tools, make them productive? What are kind of some of the things we should watch out for? So my hope today is I'll take you through a couple slides and some pros and some cons. We'll start with just reviewing the very basics of AI, kind of what it is, a little bit of the history of it. We'll look at ways that we can use it in our profession, in our everyday life. We'll also look at some of the pitfalls. What are the watch outs or the things that we should be concerned about at this moment in time? And then how can we balance that with, how can we use AI, but then also balance it with our regular human communications and interactions? So what is artificial intelligence? So it's actually not a new thing. It's been around since the 1950s. The term was coined in 1956 by John McCarthy, who you'll see here. He was a famous computer scientist. So AI in general is not new. It is a smarter technology. It is birthed out of the computer science space, as I mentioned, and it's programming machines to think and act and mimic human behaviors and human actions. So we've already been exposed to AI across all sorts of different things in our lives. So if you have an Alexa or a Siri, I got to be careful saying that because both of mine will go off. Then you've experienced AI. That's essentially what that is. Or if you know ever seen the Boston Dynamics robots, which are these robots, it's incredible the way that they move and how they really mimic human walking and actions and behaviors. And in other areas, like this is Grammarly, which is a AI generated editing tool. And so it's been powered by AI for years, in which it's really helping ensure your quality of your content, showcasing areas that maybe could be improved, but it's all done by a computer or by a machine and not humans. And so although this is not new to us, the rise of artificial intelligence is rising in new areas. And I think that's where the current state comes in. So I'm going to talk about today mostly in AI in light of communications, but of course AI is affecting tons of industries in tons of different ways. And so this is just a very small segment of that. But since we all are communicators, we're going to look at this through the lens of what does this mean for communications. And I think today's state is, historically, with the things that we looked at are assistants, right? They're robot assistants. They are helping us. And right now, AI is working on trying to get a promotion. Instead of being the assistant, they want to be the lead, right? They're trying to take the forefront and not so much be in the back. And that's due to the introduction of generative AI. And so generative AI, which you hear of, I'm sure, ChatGPT, which is the biggest player out there, and we'll talk about a couple others of them. But this is the biggest player right now. And I asked them to define what generative AI was. And so here they say, generative AI refers to a subset of artificial intelligence that is capable of producing new and original content. And it's not just written content, it could be text, images, music, videos, but it's all based on a set of rules and patterns or data that it has been trained upon. So it just gives an output based on what it's been programmed to do by humans. And so there are some limitations, and this is kind of early on in the journey for AI, but it's getting better and better, and it's getting better and better very quickly. So I kind of wanted to take a deep dive a little bit into ChatGPT, just because it is the most, the largest right now, the biggest in the platform. It's the biggest player out there. So here, the company that creates it's OpenAI, and here's a screen grab of what it looks like. And I'm actually going to take you to the website and show you how to use it. But this version of ChatGPT was released in November of 2022. And right now we are on ChatGPT version 4, which just think about how quickly that's iterating. So since November it was born, and now we're already on the 4th version. And the 4th version introduced to us a couple new things, deeper knowledge and deeper data structure, but slower speeds. So it's a little bit slower than previous versions, but it's already proving to be smarter. And there are new versions being developed today. So this is a free tool that can be used. They do have a paid subscription option, but everybody can sign up as a free tool. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to jump over to ChatGPT and share and just show you a little test. Sure. Okay. Okay, so here we are on the site. I'm logged in, but essentially it's truly a chat feature. So think of it as chatting with somebody, but the somebody on the other side is the robot. And so in order to do anything, you send a message or send a prompt. Part of what makes this successful is the prompts that we give us. So the clearer we can be in our prompts and our chats, the more defined we can be, the better the content it will come to us. So I'll just show you like a little bit of what I was testing out with. I said, how do you define generative AI? And then it spits me out these 5 paragraphs. And I said, can you reduce that to 1 sentence? And then it reduces it down to 1 sentence of what the definition is. So it's essentially a two-way conversation that you can have with the robot. If you wanted this to create a Facebook post for you about this, right? You could type that in. So this just gives you a little bit of what that might look like. It saves your chats. You can start new chats at any time. And as I mentioned, there is like a free upgrade to, there's 2 more features like templates and other things. But I thought I would just show you for a quick minute kind of what it looked like and how you would utilize that at the very basics in the very beginning of your testing with AI. Okay, I'm gonna jump back over to my PowerPoint here. Okay. All right, so like I said, the prompts are key in this situation and getting us the right information. So other vendors that you may have heard of, this is just a handful of them that are kind of out in the news and being used. Most of them kind of specialize in a specific area. So Go Charlie is mostly used for blogging. So if you're interested in producing blogs, that might be a good one for you. Visla, it turns written descriptions into videos, and it also summarizes videos and extracts keywords out of those videos. So if it's more visual, that might be a good one for you to jump into. Jasper, which is probably maybe the most second recognized, I'd say, out there. It does write short and long form content and copywriting as well. So you'll see it again, it's not just ChatGPT, it's all sorts of other things that are trying to audition to take the lead. There are other big companies like Google and Microsoft are also using generative AI and incorporating them into their various tools. So you'll see their names come around a bunch. I think their social media platforms are starting to use it and build it into their tools. So you can really take generative AI and build it into any type of tool or digital asset that you have. So I think we're going to continue to see the explosion across all different kinds of industries, different kinds of big tech players out there, retail players. So it will continue to kind of grow a little bit more and more. All right, so let's kind of look at the current state of generative AI. And this is, right now, we're really in the hype cycle. So people are moving through this cycle very fast right now. We're really trying to see what sticks and what doesn't, what are the goods, what are the bads. This technology is very, very advanced. And so we have to use it correctly or it will really impact our business. So I think because of that, we're still, in terms of the current state, kind of up here in this peak of inflated expectations where it's all the craze, it's all the hype, and we still don't know really what it can do for the world. It's potentially coming down through here because there is definitely a trough of disillusionment right now where there are some limitations to AI. There are some people questioning it. So eventually the idea of it is it's going to plateau up here somewhere. And it's going to become a part of our daily work lives, our daily home lives. And we just don't know what that's going to be right now. So we're still up here, getting ready to head down through here, we think. And then, eventually in the next little bit of time, we will plateau into what are its useful applications in our lives. Okay, so I have this little thing that I like to do. It's called the 3 and the 3. So we'll give 3 positive things about AI and places that we can use it. And then we'll give 3 pitfalls or kind of some watch outs that if you're interacting with AI or using it, things that you should just be aware of and be careful before you publish or take that information and go too far with it. But we'll start with the positives because I like to start with the positives. So productive ways to use AI, I think first and foremost is really can be an anecdote to writer's block or the blank page syndrome, where we're all like staring at our white computer screens, not sure how to start this press release, or not sure what to say, not sure what how you want to frame this topic, or even what topic we should be writing about. And so getting some sort of starting prompt or some idea to start with can really help us. And so one of the positives about AI is it's very fast. So essentially it's a chat. It takes seconds to come up with information for you. And so if you have to write a press release about something, just think of questions that can help. It can help provide you with ideas or answers. Again, with AI, prompting is going to be key. It's one of the biggest things that we'll all start to learn and we'll hone in better on as we get more familiar with the tools and as we get better at asking the computer really what we want to know. And so the speedy curation is helpful in the terms of you just got to get something to get started. AI also is very quick at gathering background information. So what takes us a long time to navigate, we Google something, we look at the top 3, 4, 5 search results, we're intaking information, and that takes us an hour to do. Well, this can do that in 10 seconds. Can curate all that information gathering to help give you what you need so that you can start that next piece. So a great place to start if we're just kind of unfamiliar or unsure where to go, or just to get us something to respond to. So the second way is using AI as a brainstorming partner. It does a great job when you ask it to do things like generate questions. So let's say you have an upcoming interview that you're about to embark on, and you just don't know what questions to ask or what kind of questions you should be asking this neuroscientist. Type that in. And so it will just spit out questions for you to ask in an interview. It will create topic ideas. If you're looking for, I need topic ideas for heart and vascular communications. And I give healthcare examples because that's mostly the world that I live in. But any of the worlds that you live in that you're looking for blogging topic ideas, or things to talk about, or what are emerging trends in this area. That's a great way to use AI to help you. Again, it will curate it quickly and it will spit those topics out. And then you vet them with your lens, with your human lens. It's also a great way to write headlines and subheads. So if you've written a piece and you're like, I don't know how to say thank you one more time in this piece, put a chat into ChatGPT and say, share with me a couple headline options thanking somebody. And maybe it gives you a word that sparks something, or maybe it gives you a really great headline or a subhead or a way to be creative in your writing that maybe triggers you to say it differently, or again, kind of that writer's block. Another is email subject lines. I know that is one of the worst things in communication to write. You're like, how do I get people to open this email? Well, you have to have a good subject line, but those are the hardest things to think of to write. So put it in there, see what comes up. You might be surprised. You might use the entire subject line they give you. You might be able to take bits and pieces of it, but these are very high value pieces of communication that take a lot of time. And so I think AI could definitely help us reduce the time commitment there, and get us one step further to create publishing more things. Okay. So the third, I think, productive way that we can use AI is as a summarizer. So as communicators, I think one of our biggest challenges, and I would assume many of us are in a position of low resources, low number of people on our team, small team. So really looking at how can we take one piece of information and share it in multiple channels, or what we like to say is give it legs. The octopus is the piece of information, and the 8 tentacles coming off of it are how we can use that same piece of information in all these different ways to publish across all the different channels. And so I think AI is really useful in summarizing information and taking something that you've currently written and writing it or repurposing it for another channel or another avenue. If you have just the example that I showed you, where I asked them to define generative AI, and it spit out 5 paragraphs of information, and then I said, give it to me in 1 sentence. And so that's an example of how it can summarize. So if you have a big, long report that you want to create an executive summary for, go ahead, copy and paste that report, put it into ChatGPT, and see what happens. See what kind of summary it provides to you. AI will also really help with creating outlines. If you make sure you're, again, asking the right prompt, give me an outline for a presentation on AI, for example. And it should be able to help really give you key points and create that topic outline. And then you can put your human touch into those different areas throughout that piece of communication. All right, I'm going to pause here for just a second before we get into the pitfalls and just ask if there are any questions. You're welcome to chat them or unmute yourself at this point. Okay, perfect. Well, keep thinking of them, and then we can address them. I'll stop again after the next 3 here. So the pitfalls of AI, and I think what we've noticed that is a lot of negative press out there about AI, and that is real, because it is such a new technology, and and its adoption rate and hype rate is so high so quickly that it has introduced quite a bit of negative press and publicity. And I think it's just going to get better and better, AI is, but right now here are some things that are super important to keep in mind. Um, Truth and bias. So I would venture to guess that all of our audiences that we talk to, whether it's, in the press or general communication, marketing communication efforts, I think above all, our audiences are seeking truth. They want the right information, they want the accurate information, and AI has no sourcing. So it's serving you up what it's been trained on, but that's not been vetted by accredited source. So any content that comes out of ChatGPT, just understand that there's no sourcing in that. There absolutely could be bias in that because it is curating information and data from the outside world. And we as humans have biases. So it is taking biased data and being trained on it and then spitting that back out to us. So really be careful when you're reading through the content or reading through what it's providing to you, that if it has a bias or not. And we as humans, like I said, have biases. So our prompts likely can be bias in itself. And so as we learn to do better with our prompting and our questions, that might go away. But if we can keep top of mind the bias, I think that'll be a huge piece of this. How do we check? So there's a chat here. It says, how do we check for sourcing and bias? Google for sources and bias. Yes. So whatever type of organization you represent, I'll speak for hospitals and health systems. We go to our American Heart Association for real information. We go to the government sites, the NIH, and credible sources that have always been credible. That's where we would have to fact check our content against. And that's the human part of it. It can spit out content, we can use it, but we just need to make sure that we're checking to make sure that it's accurate. You can Google that. You just would use your top credible sources that your industry, it's associations for various industries. Okay, so then the next question is the content it provides plagiarized? We don't know that yet. That's, I think, still part of I still think that's part of the discussion here is who owns it. I'll get into that in a couple other, hold that question. I'll get to that in the next couple slides. But in terms of the sourcing, the truth seeking, so far, AI has only been trained on data and information through September of 2021. Okay, so let that sink in for a minute. We're almost 2 years past September 2021. So it's not spitting out the latest information. And I think that's a huge problem with it right now. Again, that it will likely be fixed pretty quickly because this is moving very fast. But I'll stop sharing here and I'll show you because I find this so fascinating. I'm going to share, go back to the ChatGPT screen. Where is that? Okay, let's just do that. On its home screen here, it says, it tells you limited knowledge of the world and events after 2021. So there is a disclaimer on their site about that. Also, you can see a disclaimer here, may occasionally produce harmful instructions or biased content. So it's telling you its limitations. It knows the limitations that it has, but it's just we as people need to make sure that the shortcuts that we're taking are, again, of the highest standards and integrity and truth that our audiences are seeking in our communications. I think that's huge. So the second pitfall is empathy. And empathy is a emotion that our brains process and feel. And one thing computers lack are brains and emotional intelligence. So any EQ you're not going to find in the content. You're really going to find it to be very factual, potentially data driven, informative, but it will pretty much always be emotionless copy. It has a limited amount of creativity because, again, it's not a human. And the human elements brought into communications is really that creative brain, the creative thinking, the emotion that the stories that we're telling our audiences, and that emotional connection. So the content will be informational, and it will be present facts and information, but the human hand will have to go in and make that feel good and resonate on an emotional level with your audience. Okay, and so this is the third pitfall, is really ownership and copyright. And again, there's no answer. So I think you have to be really careful about what you do. I would avoid using that word for word as your own, because you really don't know who owns it. It could be spitting out the same content to somebody else that's asking similar questions. So there is no copyright stamp right now or ownership. I'm sure you may have heard there's been tons of news articles about, so AI also produces art. And so if you ask it to like draw you a picture of whatever can you claim that as your artwork, or is that the computer's artwork? So there's really been a lot of kind of discovery and figuring out what goes there. Which is like essentially the plagiarism concerns. What I would do, if you haven't ever used the tool Grammarly before, or some other Readable or Hemingway editor, those are all good communication tools. They all are AI backed tools. Put your copy in one of those tools, and they have a plagiarism check. So just to make sure that it's not existing out there somewhere else in the netherworld that you've never known, you can use those types of tools. Put your content that you got from ChatGPT in that, and make sure that it is original. Maybe change up some things here and there. Another place that we're finding a lot of struggles with AI is schooling for children, and they're asking these computers to write their papers for them. And professors don't know if the kid wrote the paper or the computer wrote the paper. And so we're quickly working on tools that professors and teachers can use to tell if this was a human created piece or a computer created piece. But that line is just going to get fuzzier and fuzzier as artificial intelligence gets better and better. And it is quickly getting better. So I anticipate that to be a tough task down the road.
Reba, this is Missy Laborde. I'm a professor over at LSU at our Alexandria campus, and we just in April got our first 100% AI generated paper turned into our department.
And how did you find it?
Turnitin will now do that. There's several tools you can put it into. And I think it's really going to be a shift in how we make assignments, how we grade assignments, much like when the math teachers had to deal with the calculator.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to do more situational kind of things, but it's going to be a real paradigm shift for academics just as a whole.
Absolutely. Oh, and yes, everywhere. Your trust is going to be a hard thing, because you're going to it's going to be just so much information out there. You're going to have a hard time finding a true north. trying to find that gold standard. It's just gonna be really messy.
A lot of the colleagues said maybe we should bring back the blue books from days of old when you had to write the
Oh,
paper in class and the students were all just like, oh my God.
I know, I remember those. Oh my gosh, those were something, weren't they? But yeah, that's crazy that these, yeah. So as parents too, we have to just be aware of the things that we're giving our children access to, and just knowing that what they are accessing. Privacy is another big issue. I kind of lump that under the ownership and the copyright. And when you sign up for your first ever account on ChatGPT, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a warning screen that pops up, and it says, please don't share any sensitive information in your conversations. So anything you put into that chat is being monitored, and the robot is learning that. And so if you're writing some kind of piece that has confidential information in it, or data and statistics in it, or private health information in it, you got to be real careful about what you're putting into your prompts, because that is no longer information that you own. Now ChatGPT, it owns it, and OpenAI, and basically the rest of the world. So there's definitely a lot of privacy concerns with even just sharing your name, information, like human identifying information. Okay, so those are kind of the three and the three that I like to go through. I think what I would encourage you is to try some of the first ones we talked about, and try with some low-hanging fruit. Do it on emails that you're sending internally to your colleagues, or things that might not be super public facing at this point. But I definitely would encourage you to play around in there on those particular areas that are kind of that low level integration, so to speak. Okay, so let's talk about how AI could change communication in general across the board. I'm not sure if I probably most of you have heard of Anne Hanley, but she is a very famous content expert. She runs a business called Marketing Profs, and she's a thought leader in the space of content and communications. And she was giving talk on AI, and I was attending, and we as a company were attending. And so I thought that what she said, this was just really, really, really exceptional. That AI, it will change us, but it won't replace us. And the example that she gave was a butter churning analogy. So she said she's not going to stay on the porch and churn butter when she can go buy butter at the store for $4. So we should aim to be better communicators by always being curious how to improve. So instead of churning the butter, she's going to spend her time on the farm doing something else. So that was really insightful, and a great analogy that you made from the calculator. That was the same kind of thing. The calculator changed us, absolutely, but we are still here, and we still have math teachers, and we still have accountants, and we still have that field. It just changed us. It didn't replace us. And so now, instead of having our efforts being on writing the content originally or churning the butter, we're going to be focusing on other areas of our communication landscape. And I think that is key to understand, and a key reason why we want to embrace this type of technology. Okay, so we have another question here. I work for a university, and anything I produce university owns it. So how can I use AI? I would be sharing topics that belong to the university. Is that unethical or a conflict of interest for me as an employee? I think for you, I would use it and then put the human touch to it, so that it's not word for word AI, because again, that's where the copyright gets sticky. Use it for your information gathering, your idea generating, those types of things. Putting your institutional knowledge into it, your expertise and experience into it. And then I guess you said ultimately the university owns that. And I think that's okay. I think it's just being careful using that word for word of everything that's spit out to you. Okay, so let's talk about a couple ways that AI will impact communication. The first thing is human content will be at a premium. So as more content floods the web, more, I mean, we're going to see a huge rise in content. The human content will be way more valuable, and it will be harder to find. So we need to think of things that humans can do, or ways that humans communicate that machines can't. So we'll want to put human elements into all of our communications. The way we can do that are using subject matter experts in the bylines. That's going to bring some credibility to our communications. That's going to our organizations. That's going to help that rise above all of this web of content. We'll put a point of view in there that's specific to your organization. ChatGPT isn't going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to effectively differentiate you. And so that's your human job. Find a way that you can spin it, an angle, an opinion, a thought leader that you can add to any type of content that would support the organization. Stories will be huge, giving that emotional connection. Stories of professors, stories of students, stories of patients, stories of customers, case studies, spending your time doing those types of efforts, because that is human content, things that computers cannot do. We'll make sure that you're putting in data that's unique to your organization, or that's unique to your subject matter expert. It could be their original thoughts, their original designs, their opinions, that will help you stand out in the fog. Interesting. Okay, just reading that chat. Sorry, that was interesting. So yeah, human content will be at a premium. Find ways to create human content and add that into your editorial plans and your communication strategies. The second thing is, we kind of hit on this pretty good, but we'll hit on it again because it's really important. Accuracy and fact checking will be vital. Accuracy matters. People are seeking truth. Truth matters. So make sure that you're researching or fact checking all of your information through those reliable sources, government sources, associations, gold standards in your respective industries. Any mistake that we put out there publicly can absolutely have a tremendous impact on someone's life. So you have to just really take that seriously, and understand that accurate information is very important. And I think this is going to be the most interesting one. There'll be an increased focus on content strategy. And so we may see the number of writers that we have on our team, or the resources we spend on writing, significantly go down. But I think we're going to see an influx or an increase on content strategy. And the reason for that is because AI can't separate you from your competitors. They may be able to tell you who your competitor is, but they can't differentiate that. So it's important to have the system in place, but you also have to have the skills in place. So a new system is worthless if you don't have the skills to apply it to your business. So you can create as much content as you want through ChatGPT. But what good are 10 press releases if you don't know how to market them, or where to publish them, or how to publish them? So getting a greater understanding of our audience and their preferences is going to be huge. Again, if a tree falls in the woods and makes a loud sound, did a tree really fall? I mean, we don't know, right? And so if you're creating content just to create content, but it's not accessing the right individuals at the right place at the right time that they're hoping to make a decision, then it's essentially a worthless tool. So I would think about how you can change your time on the farm, right? The churning the butter, maybe that's something that you do. Instead of churning the butter or writing the content, I'm going to focus X more amount of my time really creating the strategy for the content and where it should be placed and how it should be distributed and the personalization that it needs to reach this hugely inundated market of people that are seeing content in every facet of their life, every 5 seconds of their life. So I encourage you to start to look at ways you can improve your content strategy and people on your team that might have the skill that you could tap into a little bit more to make sure that it's in the right place at the right time. Okay, so my parting advice before we get to questions is if I had to give one piece of advice to you all, it would be to let curiosity be your playground. There's so many unknowns at this point, but if you can tap into your curiosity as a communicator, your curiosity as a PR professional, and you can find a way to stay open, stay agile, be adaptable, use the questions like, tell me more, I want to learn more. You know, what winning looks like in this space is really welcoming new things onto our team and new things, even if they're scary at first, and it's really facing that discomfort and embracing what comes to our way. So I would really encourage everyone to let our inner children out and just let it be a playground for learning and improvement and time management and finding a way to embrace that technology so that it can help you. And along with that, I would really look at this as an opportunity versus a threat. Somebody once told me, think of it like this. What if you had more time to focus on other projects that you enjoyed? Or what if you had a really good intern? What would you have your intern do for you? If you write a list of 10 things down. If I had this great intern, what would I have that person do? And use AI to be that intern for you as you are professional leaders and you have the leadership and the wisdom to offer. Let the machines help you with your tasks. Be a good delegator with those. How might you use your communication skills to ask for what you need? So think of it as having kind of an assistant to help you along the way, improve your jobs, improve your communications, improve your happiness at your work, and take those task-oriented things off your plate. Okay, questions? Any more thoughts or questions? I'm certainly open to them. I don't know all the answers, but it's like I said, it's kind of one of those things that we're all learning along the way.
If you want to raise your hand, or you can type it in the chat, anything you want to. Joy, I see your hand.
Yes, this is Joy Carter with American Cast Iron Pipe Company. I'll ask a question. So it does seem that we've gone from just this incredible heightened frenzy over AI, and within the last week, communications has been tasked with drafting a policy for our company on AI, right? And there's still so much that we don't know about it. And first of all, this was great information. Thank you so much. And I will for sure ask to share the recording with my team when that's available. But in terms of a corporate or company-wide policy regarding use of AI, and I think we've kind of seen in our research that it's kind of all over the place, but kind of starting, do you have any guidelines or thoughts on what that policy, and you've covered some of it here, but can you talk a little bit about that
Yeah.
on AI?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. We had to do that ourselves as a writing company, and we're getting questions from our clients like, "Are we paying you and you're using machines?" And so that was very scary and alarming for us. And so we had to do the same. We had to really, I think the starting point of your policy should be in alignment with your values as a business, what those are, and your mission. And then I think it's great to have a policy, and I think that's important. That I would encourage even like a lunch and learn once you put a policy in place, and share that with your team, but also share that this is fluid in term. I mean, this is the policy today, but we're going to learn something tomorrow that is likely going to affect the policy. So just being very transparent about that piece of it. I have a sample policy that I had found somewhere, and it was really interesting, and I can send that to you as follow up, and I can share our policy, but it really just depends on so many factors in terms of
Right.
regulation in your industry, company values. So I don't have like a silver nugget for that, but I can share maybe a couple pieces of information that might give you a good starting off point. Like, here are some questions that can help you start your policy, and then you create your own answers to the questions. But that might be helpful. If you want to send me your email, or you can email me, Reba@WriterGirl.com, and then I can forward those things on to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And Patrice, I can share this deck with you too, in case people just want to have the deck to disseminate and circle around on top of the recording, but I'll send that to you when I'll zip it up into a PDF and get that to you too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, Reba, well, for Joy, this is Missy. One of the things that when we were doing some research for a presentation, when you're doing that policy, it may be that there are some things that it's acceptable, to always use some form of AI generation for. But one of the examples that we had run across was when Vanderbilt did an email to their campus about the shootings at Michigan, and they did it and AI generated, and people were upset because it was such a human tragedy. So it was the human, I forgot my video was off, sorry y'all. The human tragedy part of it was what was so upsetting to people. So it could be that some people are okay with you using AI generated content at some stuff, but when it came to something that important and that critical, people were really upset, and they ended up doing an apology about it.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you, Missy, for that point.
Yeah. You don't want to mess with the human. Again, that's a human element. That's a human piece of content. Maybe what you do is define machine content versus human content, and kind of put into buckets what your policy has. These types of things, letters, memos, whatever, is always human generated, and these are acceptable form. Like, I don't know, but it is kind of just a blank page type request.
Yeah, appreciate that. And thank you for your response.
Of course. There's another question that says, are there certain AI platforms that are more reliable than others? I would say the answer to that is yes. ChatGPT is probably one of the most reliable because it is getting so much of the funding and the press and the resources put behind it. So it's improving very quickly. I don't know the others well enough to be able to speak to kind of the reliability of those platforms. I just know that ChatGPT is being worked on a lot, and I think that will helps in its reliability. They're all pulling from the same data though, really. Like they're all being trained by information they're receiving from us talking all the time, asking Siri questions, talking to Alexa, typing into our Google search. I mean, everybody is learning the same things and has that same kind of information.
We have time for a couple of more questions if you have any. If not, the session has been recorded and we will get it posted as soon as we can. And also we'll share that slide deck. Thank you, Reba. This has been very informative, very hot topic in our industry, and we appreciate your expertise and knowledge and sharing that with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for coming to join. Your time is precious and valuable as well. So I encourage you all to just dip your toe in it if you haven't yet. But thank you, Patrice, for having me. And it was nice to meet you all.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.